Welcome back to Thinkstruments, where we explore ideas and mental models that help us thrive in life and business. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches on something deeply ingrained in both our personal and professional lives: routines. Specifically, we're asking the question, are our routines merely rituals, and sometimes empty ones at that? So, routines, as we understand them in modern life, didn't start out as simple habits to just make us more efficient. Historically, they evolved from ancient rituals that served as a way for communities to create order and predictability in a world that was otherwise pretty chaotic and very unpredictable. In ancient societies, rituals were performed to connect with the divine, to ensure a good harvest, or to celebrate key life events. And these rituals were a form of consistency, something that could be relied upon year after year, season after season. They didn't just mark time, they provided a sense of control over the future. By performing the same ritual, societies believed they could influence future outcomes. In ancient times, rituals were often performed in what are known as liminal spaces, places in nature where one environment transitioned into another, like where a prairie meets a forest or a desert converges with a river. And yep, it's the same liminal as we see when we say the word subliminal. It's this boundary. And these transitional zones where the landscape itself was in flux were obviously seen as gateways of change, portals to the unknown. They symbolized a thin veil between what was known and what lay beyond human control. And can be quite scary as well. People believed these spaces held unique power, and rituals performed there could influence the forces of nature or of chaos or of destiny. Now, over time, these liminal places became so significant that edifices were built on them. Simple altars and shrines were constructed, and they then evolved into temples and monuments. And then these physical structures became the institutional homes of rituals where communities gathered to placate the forces that governed the unpredictable aspects of life. Temples provided a sense of security, allowing people to commune with and seek favor from the divine entities that were believed to control the forces of chaos and fate. As rituals became institutionalized and religious buildings served as their gateways, something else also began to happen, and a fascinating parallel, or dare I even say, an evolution unfolded. And this is what we have in the modern world as the rise of corporate buildings. Just as temples were once the places where rituals were performed to manage uncertainty, corporate offices have become, one can really say, the modern temples where spaces are made for rituals to be performed and renamed as routines to confront the unknown future. Now, in these corporate environments, the religious artifacts of the past, like relics and sacred texts and symbols of divine power, are transfigured into the tools and symbols of business, where once offerings were made before statues of gods. Today we find spreadsheets, bar charts, profit and loss statements, and key performance indicators as the new objects of reverence and of obedience as well. These modern artifacts, just like their ancient counterparts, hold immense significance in the lives of people. They are the batteries of hope. They're these repositories of data, strategy, and ambition through which faith is maintained. So much like priests interpreting omens, today's business analysts and managers and executives pore over these artifacts, seeking patterns, trends, and signs of future success or failure. The meeting room becomes the sacred space where decisions are made and charts are drawn up, much like religious offerings once laid at the altar. So the corporate office then transforms as a modern gateway to the unknown future, where routines like quarterly reviews, budget forecasts, and performance evaluations are enacted to ensure that uncertainty is tamed and fortune is won. Routines provide us with a structure that gives us a sense of control. By repeating the same actions each day, we create a framework for predicting what will come next. Now, in business, routines are a way to manage the chaos of an unpredictable market, client demands, or operational challenges. But here's where the problem comes when it comes to routines, is when they become disconnected from their original purpose. It risks becoming this empty ritual, a task that we continue doing, but without any real meaning behind it. But there's a deeper reason why we cling to routines, even when they have become hollow or outdated. And this is where ethnomethodology comes into play. Now, ethnomethodology examines how everyday practices form a shared reality, helping us navigate the world with confidence, a consensual reality. And these practices, often unnoticed, are the foundation of our social rituals, whether it's how we greet each other with handshakes, the unspoken rule to face forward in an elevator, or the ritual of maintaining or avoiding eye contact during conversations. These behaviors create a social framework, an architecture that feels stable and predictable. Now, when we follow these rituals, everything feels normal. But when we or somebody breaks them, like skipping a handshake in a professional setting, sitting too close or too far from someone during a meeting, or violating personal space norms, our dress, our accents, we create a ripple of uncertainty. Even something as simple as eating in a way that defies cultural expectations, like using the wrong hand or utensil, can disrupt the balance of social interaction. Now, in business, we see similar rituals with routines like following agendas in meetings, observing punctuality, or adhering to dress code. And breaking any of these norms can cause discomfort, confusion, existential angst, even mistrust, revealing how deeply these ritual structures both our social and professional environment. Each small practice, whether in daily life or the workplace, serves as a piece of the social puzzle that keeps our interactions orderly, efficient, and understood. When these rituals are broken, the certainty and shared understanding they provide begin to unravel, exposing how fragile and essential they truly are. So these are rituals, in their own right, all of these things that we do, designed to maintain this consensual reality of how the organization functions. They help establish what is normal, expected, and reliable, consistent. However, just like in ancient societies, when these routines lose their connection to meaning, they can become rigid structures that no longer serve their original purpose. Now, as ancient rituals were really once a form of nascent understanding of causality, of cause and effect, many of the associations they relied on were later found to be inaccurate. We didn't need to dance around a fire to ensure the moon would rise, nor did we need to sacrifice a goat to bring rain. These practices, though powerful and symbolic at the time, were eventually understood as misdirected attempts to control and predict natural phenomena. Similarly, in the modern world, our routines can become empty rituals when they no longer serve their intended purpose. These routines may start out as functional, but over time they lose their connection to the real forces they were designed to control or predict, becoming mechanical repetitions without any meaning and deeper direction or outcomes. So when a routine fails to properly classify the present or predict the future, whether that's in a business strategy, team operations, or personal habits, it no longer serves as an effective tool for managing uncertainty, managing fear, managing anxiety, or our ability to predict. So how do we know if a routine is still meaningful or if it's become an empty ritual? Well, here's one way. Look at the intention behind the action. If the purpose of the routine is still clear and connected to the larger goals of the organization, it functions as a healthy, intentional ritual. It supports decision-making, planning, and progress. But if the routine is followed simply because that's how we've always done it, without a clear connection to present-day goals or outcomes, it's likely an empty gesture. It's a ritual in form, but one that no longer offers real value. So just like the ancient practices that tried in vain to influence the natural world. Now, this brings us to a fascinating intersection between philosophy and psychology. Routines and rituals are not just about creating order or managing time. They are about managing our deepest fears. And one powerful theory that helps explain this is terror management theory, TMT. So TMT, it's a concept from social psychology, explores how humans deal with the awareness of their own mortality. As humans, we are uniquely aware that we will eventually die. And this knowledge creates deep existential anxiety or terror, which we manage by constructing systems of meaning, cultural beliefs, traditions, and yes, routines that help us feel like we're part of something larger and more enduring than ourselves. In the business world, this plays out in interesting ways. Routines give us a sense of permanence in a world that is otherwise pretty impermanent and unpredictable. They become a shield against the uncertainty of the future and of the fear of our own kind of annihilation. So when we follow routines, whether it's a morning check-in with the team or a quarterly sales review, we are in a way affirming our existence and the importance thereof, as well as asserting our ability to predict and control the future. And there's an assumption that by doing so, we'll be part of that future. And this helps to mitigate the anxiety that comes from the unknown. And whether it's market or fear of failure or even and ultimately our own awareness of our own mortality. But here's the critical point. When these routines are too rigid, too ritualistic, they actually do the opposite of what they're intended to do. Instead of helping us adapt to change, they prevent us from seeing new opportunities or responding flexibly to new challenges. This is why we have to be careful about how we use routines. If they are helping us create meaning and structure, they're invaluable. If they are preventing growth, then we need to let go of them and create new, more meaningful rituals. So what does this all mean for us, both in life and in business? Well, first, it shows that routines are not inherently good or bad. They are tools born from ancient rituals that help us manage uncertainty. They give us a sense of control and predictability, but when they become detached from meaning, they can hold us back, stifling our creativity and our whole sense of motivation. It also highlights the importance of being intentional. if a routine is no longer serving its purpose, it's time to let it go. This requires of us to be flexible and adaptable and open to change, two qualities that are essential for thriving in today's fast-paced business world. And then finally, it also reminds us of the deep psychological reasons why we cling to routines in the first place. At a fundamental level, they help us manage our fear of the unknown. But here's the paradox. The very routines we create to manage the fear can sometimes become the chains that prevent us from moving forward. We become fettered to our fears. So how can we apply this in our life or business? Well, we've got to start by reflecting on our own daily routines. Are they rituals that still carry meaning, or have they become empty gestures? Ask yourself, why am I doing this? And more importantly, is it helping me or my organization or others to grow? And remember, while routines can give us comfort and control, true growth comes from being willing to break free from old patterns and paradigms when they no longer serve us, and particularly in a world that is churning forward all the time. And this is going to help us not just survive, but obviously thrive. So thanks for watching Thinkstruments. If you like this video and it gave you something to think about, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more insights into how we can use philosophical thinking to thrive in both business and life. Until next time.